Here's a truth that will make you uncomfortable. 87% of people who dream of wealth will never get rich. Not because they lack talent, not because they weren't born rich, but because they carry a single toxic belief that acts like financial poison in their minds. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who controlled the wealth of an entire empire, identified this exact mental trap over 1,800 years ago. He wrote about it in his private journal, never intending for anyone to read it. But what he discovered about this belief, and more importantly, how to break free from it, could be the difference between a life of financial struggle and true prosperity. Here's what I'm going to prove to you. The reason you can't get rich isn't about your circumstances, it's about one belief that's sabotaging every financial decision you make. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to reveal this belief that's been keeping you poor. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why some people seem to effortlessly attract money while others work twice as hard for half the results. But first, let me ask you something. I know because I used to carry this exact belief about money myself. For years, I wondered why my financial situation never seemed to improve, despite reading every book, taking every course, following every strategy. The answer wasn't in another technique or hack. It was in recognizing a fundamental flaw in how I thought about money itself. Here's something that will surprise you. There's a reason why Stoic philosophers were often the wealthiest people of their time, and it has nothing to do with what you think. It's about understanding a principle that modern psychology has only recently validated, but ancient wisdom has known for millennia. See, we live in a world that teaches us to think about money in a way that guarantees financial failure. This isn't about positive thinking or manifestation. This is about emotional resilience in finances, about applying Stoic wisdom to break free from a mental prison most people don't even realize they're in. The belief I'm about to expose is so deeply embedded in our culture that you probably learned it before you could even walk. This is the lie that keeps you poor, and I'll prove it to you in a moment. Until you root it out completely, every financial strategy you try will be like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just a philosopher. He was the most powerful man in the world during the height of the Roman Empire. He controlled more wealth than most modern billionaires combined. Yet, in his personal writings, he revealed something fascinating about money that most people completely misunderstand. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But here's what's crucial. He wasn't advocating for poverty. He was identifying the exact mental trap that keeps most people poor. The belief that money is the source of security. This is the toxic belief that destroys wealth, treating money as your foundation instead of your tool. When you believe money equals security, you make desperate decisions. You hoard instead of invest. You avoid risk instead of calculating it. You work for money instead of making money work for you. But what if I told you there's something even more dangerous about this belief about money? Something that Seneca warned about regarding Stoic wealth. Something that creates a psychological prison so subtle, most people live their entire lives inside it without ever knowing. Stay with me, because this next part will change how you think about getting rich forever. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. When you believe money equals security, you develop what psychologists call scarcity mindset. You start making decisions based on fear instead of opportunity. Think about it. How many times have you avoided a business opportunity because you couldn't afford to lose the money? How many times have you stayed in a job you hated because it felt secure? How many times have you postponed an investment because you wanted to save more first? This is the belief in action, and it's destroying your wealth systematically. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern financial advisors are just discovering. Wealth is not about having money. It's about having the psychological freedom to make optimal decisions about money. When Marcus Aurelius made financial decisions for the Roman Empire, he wasn't thinking about security. He was thinking about utility. What serves the greater good? What creates the most value? What decision would I make if I had no fear? Warren Buffett, who has studied Stoic philosophy extensively, once said, "I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not reopen it for 10 years. This is Stoic thinking applied to wealth. He's not seeking security from money. He's seeking value creation through money. But here's where it gets dangerous. There's a specific way this belief manifests that's so subtle, so socially acceptable, that it's praised as responsible financial behavior. Yet it's the exact mechanism that keeps the middle class trapped in mediocrity. Seneca identified this trap 2,000 years ago, and when you understand it, you'll never think about getting rich the same way again. Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome, yet he wrote extensively about the psychology of money. In his letters, he revealed something that modern society has completely backwards. The more you need something, the less power you have to get it. This is the trap. When you believe money equals security, you become emotionally dependent on money, and emotional dependence destroys rational decision-making. Here's how it works. You save money in low-yield savings accounts because it feels safe. You avoid investments because you can't afford to lose money. You work overtime for small raises instead of building skills, for quantum leaps. You buy insurance for everything because you're terrified of financial loss. All of this feels responsible. Society tells you this is smart money management, but it's actually the psychology of poverty disguised as financial wisdom. Studies show that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. These aren't just minimum wage workers. This includes people making six-figure salaries. Why? Because they've never learned to think about money as a tool for creating value instead of a shield against uncertainty. The Stoics had a radical perspective. True security comes from your ability to create value, not from accumulating money. Marcus Aurelius didn't feel secure because he had money. He felt secure because he had the skills, relationships, and mindset to create value in any situation. The money was just a byproduct. But what if you could never lose money, only learn from it? There's still one more layer to this belief about getting rich that's even more insidious. It's about time. And once you see it, you'll understand why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others struggle their entire lives. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, understood something profound about wealth and time. He said, "Wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants." But here's the deeper truth. When you believe money equals security, you trade your most valuable asset, time, for your least valuable asset, immediate financial comfort. Think about this. Every hour you spend working for money is an hour you don't spend developing skills that could multiply your income. Every dollar you save in a low-yield account is a dollar not invested in your future earning potential. Every safe financial decision is an opportunity cost against exponential growth. Most people think, "I'll take risks when I have more money." But this is backwards. The time to take calculated risks is when you have less money, because you have more time to recover and compound your learning. The wealthy understand this intuitively. They invest in themselves first, skills, relationships, opportunities, because they know that personal development compounds faster than money. Steve Jobs was once asked what he would do if he lost all his money. He said, "I'd start over. I have the skills, the network, and the mindset to rebuild." The money isn't the asset, I am. This is Stoic thinking. Your true wealth isn't in your bank account, it's in your ability to create value consistently over time. But here's what separates those who get rich from those who don't. There's a specific decision that wealthy people make about failure, and it's the exact opposite of what society teaches us. This insight from Marcus Aurelius will change everything you believe about money. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, war, betrayal, and economic collapse during his reign, yet he maintained both his wealth and his peace of mind. How? Because he understood that failure is information, not identity. When you believe money equals security, You avoid failure at all costs. But this is exactly what keeps you poor. Because wealth is built through intelligent risk-taking, rapid learning, and iterative improvement, all of which require embracing failure as a teacher, not an enemy. The people who fear financial failure the most are the ones who experience it the most. Why? Because they make decisions based on avoiding loss instead of maximizing gain. They play not to lose instead of playing to win. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, imagining losing everything you have. Not to create anxiety, but to build emotional resilience and remove the fear that paralyzes decision-making. When you can mentally handle the worst-case scenario of a financial decision, you're free to make the optimal choice instead of the safe choice. This is how wealth compounds, through consistently making slightly better decisions over time. Research shows that millionaires fail at business an average of 3.8 times before succeeding. They don't avoid failure, they accelerate through it. Because they understand that failure is tuition for the University of Wealth Creation. But how do you reprogram your entire identity around money? There's one final aspect of this belief that's the most dangerous of all. It's about identity. How you define yourself in relation to money determines everything: your decisions, your opportunities, even your relationships. And most people have this completely backwards. Here's the deepest level of this toxic belief: defining yourself by your financial situation instead of your capacity to create value. When you believe money equals security, you start identifying as poor or middle class or not good with money. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because your identity drives your actions. The Stoics understood that identity is a choice. Marcus Aurelius didn't think of himself as the emperor with money. He thought of himself as a philosopher who happens to manage an empire's resources. What's your money identity right now? Wealthy people think, I am someone who creates value. Money is attracted to value creation. Poor people think, I am someone who needs money. I must work hard to get money. This difference in identity creates completely different behaviors. Wealthy identity. How can I solve problems profitably? Poor identity. How can I work harder to earn more? Wealthy identity. What skills do I need to develop? Poor identity. What job pays the most? Wealthy identity. How can I create systems that work without me? Poor identity. How can I get more security from my job? When you stop needing money for security and start using money as a tool for value creation, everything changes. You become attractive to opportunities instead of desperate for them. You make decisions from abundance instead of scarcity. You build wealth instead of just earning income. This is why Marcus Aurelius could write about money with such clarity. He wasn't emotionally attached to it. He saw it as a responsibility, a tool, a means to serve something greater than himself. So here's the moment of truth. So, let me ask you directly. What would you do differently if you stopped believing that money equals security? What business would you start if you weren't afraid of losing money? What skills would you develop if you trusted your ability to create value? What opportunities would you pursue if you saw money as a tool instead of a shield? Here's what I've proven to you. The belief that's keeping you poor is this: treating money as your foundation instead of your instrument. When you need money for security, you make desperate decisions. When you use money as a tool for value creation, you make wealthy decisions. Marcus Aurelius discovered this truth. Your security doesn't come from having money. It comes from your ability to create value consistently over time. Starting today, I want you to ask yourself a different question. Not, how can I make more money? But, how can I create more value? Not, how can I protect what I have? But, how can I develop what I need? Remember, money is not your master, it's your servant. But it will only serve those who are worthy of its service. The wealthy don't chase money. They become the kind of people that money chases. They develop skills, solve problems, create value, and build systems. The money is just keeping score. As Seneca wrote, It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. True wealth begins the moment you stop needing money for security and start using it for contribution. I want to hear from you. What belief about money have you already changed? What mental shift made the biggest difference in your financial life? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If this philosophical approach to wealth resonates with you, subscribe to keep feeding your millionaire brain. We're building a community of deep thinkers who understand that true prosperity starts in the mind. Remember, your wealth is not in your wallet, it's in your wisdom.